So today we're going to learn about the Amazon service called CloudFormation. So what is CloudFormation? So let's think about if you are working as a administrator and you are told to create the VPC. For example, you want to deploy a web server. So you are told to create the environment for the web server. And you do everything from the scratch. You start with the VPC, you create the subnet, then you create the internet gateway, you create the you modify the what you call routing table, and then you create VP. In the subnet, you create the web server instance, like EC2 instance. Then you create the security group, and all of those things which is required to run the web application. And think about that. This web application also have a database running at the back end, and then you have to create the database. Now your database is on the different subnet, and on the different subnet you're going to have a private subnet, and private subnet not going to allow any internet access. Then you're going to create the NAT gateway, and all those things you will be doing for one region, for one requirement. Then your boss comes to you and say, you know what, I want you to, you have done really good job. I want you to do same thing for our other client in a Tokyo region. So think about the hassle you have to go through, all those things. You have to get your blueprint, and you have to sit down and start all over again. And for example, the first environment, it took maybe you to create 2 to 3 hours or maybe days, because you have to plan something before doing that. And then you have to create the duplicate of that environment. And your boss come to you and say, you know what, the second environment you just created, it was good, but the client want to make some changes to that environment again. So think about how much work involved there. So CloudFormation is a solution in that situation, where you create the environment for one client. So rather than doing the replication of that environment, and you have to go to management console, and do all these tedious tasks for the customer to build this environment. So they have a solution for that, and that solution is called CloudFormation. CloudFormation is a service that helps you model and set up your AWS resources, so that you can spend less time managing the resources and more time focusing on your application that run in the AWS. So what they're trying to do with the CloudFormation, they are actually giving you an option so you can write the code rather than going to the management console. You can write the code, and you can run that code, execute that code, and that code going to create the resources for you. I will show you in a demo. So CloudFormation allow organization to deploy, modify, and update. The scenario I just gave you, if some client want to make changes, they already had deployed something for their infrastructure, and they want to modify or going to update. So how are you going to do that? In a controlled and predictable way. In effect, applying version control to AWS infrastructure the same way on would do without software. So this kind of task is called infrastructure as a code. Infrastructure as code. So you write the code rather than actually going to the console and doing something. So this way you can do the version control. What this version control mean? You have created one version of the environment, and then you want to change the environment, or you can modify the environment. So whatever changes you're going to make to that document, which you use as a template, is going to be version 2. and then you, after a while, then you come back and you make more changes to then. For example, you want to add more services like SNS and SQS, or maybe transcoder for changing the pictures, for the transformation of the pictures. So whether you add the service or make the changes to the existing services, this is going to be updated or modified. And then every time you make the changes, that's going to be the version 1, version 2, version 3. So what is the benefit? The benefit AWS CloudFormation gives developers and system administrators an easy way to create and manage a collection of related AWS resources, provisioning and updating them in an orderly and predictable fashion. When you use CloudFormation, you work with templates and stacks. So I'll show you in the coming slides what is stacks mean. You create AWS CloudFormation templates to define your AWS resources and their properties. A template is a text file whose format complies with the JSON standard. This is the language which they use to write this code. AWS CloudFormation uses these templates as the blueprints for building your AWS resources. So let me show you how. So let's go back to the. See, if I go to on this services page like CloudFormation, I will create stack. What stack mean? Let's say you want to run a web server which is driven by the database. At the front end, you have a web server. At the back end, you have a database. So you are actually running the web server, your business application. If you are running the e-commerce, your application on the web server, and then you are running the database. So these all together, all these resources all together is called stacks. So these stacks, these stacks are written in a code, and when you run the code, is going to create the environment for you. So let me show you. If I go here, create template in designer. So they also have given a designer. It's not every time this is the only option you have to write the code. And also this is not the job of the solution architect. This is system administrator and the developer who have a good knowledge of writing the code. This is their job. You should know that there is a service in the AWS which is called CloudFormation, can be used to write a code for the infrastructure. So I'll show you the designer. So see, in this designer, you can decide what service you want. So let me see here. If I go to, from the source type, I go to EC2. So here's EC2. So I want to launch the EC2, but before I start the EC2, I need a VPC, right? So I'll go all the way down here. You see the VPC? All I have to do, this is I'm now designing, and then I'll show you how the code looks like. I'm going to drag this. What this mean? This mean I need one VPC. Simple. Just drag here. And then you say, you know what? I need a subnet. Maybe I need a 2 subnet. One is going to be a private, and one is going to be. Look at this. How easy it is. So far, what we were doing. That was actually the lot of manual work required. So I have these 2 subnets. One is here, one is here. And then in subnet, you can say I need a EC2 instance. So here should say instance somewhere. Here. So I can have instance here. So when I'm doing all this, it is writing a code underneath. I'm just dragging and dropping, and there's two language they use, JSON. Right now you see all this code is being written. Even when I'm dragging, its code is automatically being written here. So another language they use is YAML. So there's two language. You can see how they looks like in a YAML language and how it looks like in JSON language. So this is the code writing. So this is very handy. A lot of in the actual job, when you go, you rarely see the people are going to use the management console. The most of the time, the company going to use these tools. Either they're going to write it because they have a developer whose job is this, just to write the YAML or JSON code, and for the deployment and modification of any resources for the client. And this is called templates. So they're going to create the templates like this, and then you can you can save this template. So if your boss comes around and say, you know what, I want the same environment for my other client in other region, all you have to do, take these templates and run this, and it's going to create the create the environment for other clients. So that's the whole purpose of CloudFormation. There's other tool called Terraform. This is a third-party open source software called Terraform. So Terraform is actually the competitor of CloudFormation. So this is not Terraform is not a part of AWS, but it is a part of a third party. Mostly the company right now, they are using Terraform. So you have to remember, as a solution architect for AWS, we have a CloudFormation, but also there is a competitor called Terraform, which use the templates for the same purposes. And this kind of service is called infrastructure as a code. This is what you have to remember. So let's see what else it says. So here on the left hand side, you say you create a user template and you save the template on the S3 buckets. And every time you need this kind of environment, or the lifting and shifting is held, is done by these templates. And this is called lifting and shifting. This is a terminology they use in the cloud environment. So he will ask you who is responsible for lifting and shifting. So this is going to be a CloudFormation administrator who will be doing all this lifting and shifting. He is expert on writing the code, and he is the one who going to manage these templates. And every time the request comes in, with the manager or solution architect going to approach this guy, and he will do the rest of the work. So to update a stack, create a change set by submitting a modified. I explained you the stack is mean that you have a multiple layers of the application, like a database, like a web server, business application, all together is called stacks. To update a stack, create a change set by submitting a modified version of the original stack template. So what happened, for example, you have created the template, and that was called original template. You started with the one template, and then you make some changes to the template. So what's going to happen, when you run the template, it will go and tell you that this is your original configuration, and this is the changes you want to do this one. So he gonna come back to you with after doing this inquiry from this running system. So this is another very good things about that this is not like a blindly going to make the changes. It's going to come back and tell you, so changes are going to be applicable or not, or if you want to make a changes to that. So it's going to run the query or some sort of diagnostic analysis on the existing system, and then come back to you, say, okay, this is your original configuration, this is you want to change, and this is how we're going to proceed. So this is the flow actually showing you. So you already have a template saved in the S3 bucket, and CloudFormation generate a change set based on your modified template. So it's going to show you that this is the change you're going to do, and view the change set, which that's called change set. What's changing are going to be going to happen in case of you modify something. And the final stage is going to execute the changes on the environment. In case if something goes wrong, even you apply these changes to the system, to the environment, and something is not working and giving you error, so automatically the system will roll back to its original form, to its original environment. So that means the system will not go down. It will be available. If the change is not going to be applicable on the environment, you will have an old environment available to you all the time. So as I said, the CloudFormation compares the modified template with the original templates and generate a change set. So original and the modified is going to change the make the change set, and change set going to do the implementation, and then there is a rollback and mechanism is also available. So remember, I show you at the last lecture I showed you there are three kind of environment you have. One is called development environment, second is called testing, or maybe there's one other called quality assurance, and the final is called the production environment. So this is what he's talking about right here, the quick launch new test environment. For example, you already have your environment running, but you want to upgrade your application, and then you're going to make the changes, and changes going to create the change set, and you can quickly launch the test environment without going to the management console. So it's other thing is offering you the reliable replication or configuration between environments. So if your testing environment and the production and the development environment, they should be look like same by all means. Otherwise, for example, you develop something in the version in the Windows 8, and then you're trying to run on Windows 10, it's going to give you error. So that's why all these three environment has to be same version of Linux and or maybe Windows or whatever you're running. So they should be the same. So this is another thing. So you can have one template and you can create multiple environments for that. And also, as I gave you example at the beginning, that if you want to create a new environment in another region, again, you can use this template and you can run the environment. So let me show you. So I created the environment. So see here, rollback complete. So when I cancel, or if there's error, so it's going to roll back to the previous version of your configuration and your environment. So it is very easy. You can go here, you can create stocks, and I say use a sample template, and I say I need this stack. What this stack is, this stack has a one EC2 instance in it. It's going to run the MySQL database, and also it has a storage. So I select this, and only thing, if you want to see how it looks like in the design, so let's see. So this is the code is written already. I didn't do anything. I didn't write any code. I just select the stack and see all the codes are here. So in the day-to-day work, you will see something like this. You don't have to do this like from the scratch. So just select the stack. Or if you don't have a stack here, you can design your own. That's what I'm trying to show you. You can design your own. There are some like a sample, they have some samples here. So I'm picking one of the sample, but most of the company, they actually have a developer who going to sit down with the infrastructure manager, with the developer, and the solution architect going to be part of that team, and they're going to look into the requirement, what is required, and then they're going to have a flow, a chart. The web server, they need SQS services. They also want to email to the customer. Then they're going to add SNS services, and they want the load balancer. They're going to create the load balancer. All those information will be documented. On the basis of that information, the solution architect going to design the system. He's not going to configure the system, design the system, and give it that design to the administrator. And administrator is going to give it to the developer, and the developer going to come here and he going to design that. But there are also many other tools. They can use those tools rather than coming to this page. They can just have another tool called YAML or JSON. They can use any software to write the codes, and then they can upload the codes. And then they come here and they can upload the codes here. And those codes are going to create the, see they say upload a template file. So you can write a code in other software and then bring your code as a template, and you can upload the file here. And that is going to, once it's executed, it's going to create the environment for you. So I'm taking this one and selecting this one. This one have go to next. This is how simple it is. So automatically see the parameters. I have to give the stack name. So it's a database name, my database. I have to provide the password, and then this is for the MySQL database. And then they asking me the root password. What is the root password? Is a very powerful password. So it's going to select those. I can provide these parameters, and then I say next, and it's going to create the stock. So I have already, because it's going to take like 5 to 10 minutes to launch. So I have already done this. So this is the stack I'm already running. So if I look at the sources, it is showing me what it has created, what they have done so far. These are the physical ID of the, see it has an auto scaling group. It has a launch configuration. If you remember, we use the launch configuration in autoscaling. Everything is done by itself. All this, see, is creating the security group, is creating the database instance for you, and then they have a security group for the database as well. So everything is taken care of just by using this template. So this is the events is telling step by step what is happening when you're creating this environment. So it's telling the what happened if you see an error there. So it's going to roll back. So this is the output of whatever has been created. If I click on this, it is slow. So every time it creates something for you, it is going to create the DNS for your resources. Remember, we learned in the EC2 instances, every time you create EC2, you do have an IP address and you have an instance as well. So this is how the CloudFormation works. This is, I just want to show you. The next thing is we have called Elastic Beanstalk. So what is Elastic Beanstalk? So let's see, you want to have application to run on a certain kind of hardware. So you need the hardware first before you going to use the application. And to get the hardware, you have two options. Option number one, you can go and buy all the hardwares from the warehouse, and then you can assemble this hardware and you can create your build your own PC. This is the first option. So then you can actually install the software on operating system. Then you can install the application, which application you want to run. The option B is this: you can go to any retail store and you can buy the computer. So this is the second option. And then you bring that application at home, bring that PC at home, and you can install the application which you want to run. Let's say you want to run an accounting application or business application. So this is a two way of doing things. So you can install and run the application once you have your hardware available to you. So an Elastic Bean is a platform as a service used for deploying and scaling web application and services developed with Java, .NET, PHP, and JavaScript. You can run this web server, like Apache is the one web server, Tomcat is also web server, and the Microsoft web server is called IIAS. So IIS. So AWS Elastic Bean application is a logical collection of these AWS Elastic Beans component, which include environment, version, and environment configuration. So as in the example, you have to have, first of all, you have to have environment. In order to have environment, you need a PC. The PC, you can even build your own PC or you can buy from the retail store. That's environment. And then on top of that, you want to install the application. So what version of the application you want to install? Every application have you see even if you are playing the games also has a version 1, version 2, version 3. So every application is versionalized somehow. So they say which version you want to run. And the version mean in the Beanstalk is which environment. You want to run a PHP environment, you want to run a .NET environment, or you want a Tomcat environment. So all these kind of things will be available under the umbrella of Elastic Beanstalk. You go there, you select your environment, and then you install your application. That's it. This is another way of doing if you're running your business. You are not focusing on what is happening behind the scene. All you have to do, select the environment. That's it. And you said, okay, I want to run this application. You can bring your own application, or you can create the application within this environment. I'll show you in the coming slides. So let's go to the Beanstalk. If I go to this is called Elastic Beanstalk. See here is offering you application and the environment. So let's see what that means. So what we were learning so far before these two things, CloudFormation and Elastic Bean, that was we were learning about all the services, how they are configured, like how you configure the auto scaling, how you configure the load balancing, how you configure the cloud watch, cloud trail. All those things was very important to understand the concept. But more you learn about things when it's come to doing this in a real work, they are making your life easy. So here, see, I have one application running because it's take maybe 10 minutes. So I already created for you yesterday. So here, all you have to do when you go to the Beanstalk, you say create application. Simple. You give the name your application. You say BizApp. That's all you have to do. Just go there, give the name, and now you have application here. If you develop as a developer, somebody has developed the application in a Java or in .NET, in a PHP or HTML, he will bring his own code and he going to select the file, is going to provide that code to this Beanstalk, and Beanstalk is going to create the application for him. So next step is this. I'm taking the sample application. So I will say create application. So here is asking me what platform I'm going to use. So I'm saying I want to use one of this. I can use Python, I can use PHP, I can use Java, I can use Docker. Docker, I think I just touched on that. What is Docker? Is a software level virtualization of the content of the instance. So I say Tomcat is a web server. I say I want a Tomcat. So see, it's giving me a version. It said this platform is you going to have a latest version 4.1.4. That's it. Simple. Nothing more. And once I'm done this, I'll say create my application, this is the name of my application, create my application. What it's doing right now, it is going to create the web server for me. And if I have given the code, it's going to run that code, install that application on the environment which I selected from this drop down. So this is actually creating the application. So this has to go through all this process. This is taking 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes more. So let's see. So what I did the same thing. I created my application called web app. So if I click on this, so it says running. Its health check is okay. The platform is a Tomcat, is a web server. So if I go to my application and I have, which one was my application? Yeah, web app. So web app is an environment and the application. So it gives you two things, called environment and it's called the application. So in the application, this is my applications running on this system. I did not do anything. I just selected the environment and I gave my application name, and I had if I had my software development file which I have developed, I can upload that file and the system will take care of your application and environment itself. You don't have to configure and install EC2 instance. You don't have to install your web server. You don't have to do anything about that. So any question? So life is becoming easy in the real world. If you were thinking before, oh my God, we have to do all this all over again. If you created one environment and then you have to create another one, you don't have to. So there's a solution for that, because in the real world there will be a lot of changes, lot of implementation, lot of work will be given to the administrator, and the solution architect will be working with those guys on daily basis. So no question. So demo is done. Okay, now it's time to learn about the Amazon API gateway. So what do I have left? Yes. So what is API gateway? API gateway is a kind of a door, like a door to your home. It's an interface which you use. For example, you are running the database or you're running the application from your device, like an iPhone, from iPad and a PC. You're trying to access those applications. So for in order to access, you need some sort of gateway to get into this environment. Let's see somebody is playing PUBG. So you are using your mobile phone or iPad to play the PUBG. The first thing is you have to open your client or your application, and then you have to provide your username and password to log into that. And once you are providing those information, you get authenticated, and then it's launched the application. All this communication from starting level, from signing in or signing up, all those things are happening, and it is going through the API gateways. API stands for Application Interface Gateway. So you have an interface which is on your iPad, and you are trying to connect to the backend server, and the communication between these two is going to happen through the internet gateway. All the traffic will go to the gateway, and the gateway is going to look at this information, who is coming to connect to what. So these things he's going to do, and then going to route your traffic. So this is how you interface with the backend server, backend applications, and where even you are playing Facebook, or you're playing a game, or you're playing like you are logging into the Instagram. So what they call this interface, they has a international standard organization. They have a standard, and every application, every interface they create has to meet that standards, and they're called REST API. So REST stands for representational state transfer. Representational state transfer. This is nothing but it's an architecture. So every time any developer create an interface, he has to follow the architectural pattern for creating the web services, for connecting to from your device to the application in the cloud. So REST is just nothing but the standard architecture. So when developer develop anything, he has to keep in mind that he's developing a REST application. He has to meet all the standard and the compliances about the requirement of the REST. So API is an interface that allows you to build on the data and functionality of another application. So from your application, from your device, from your client, you are connecting to another application which is sitting in a web or in a cloud. So what usually you do, actually, if you are going online and you are managing your bank account, so you are doing this, you are transferring the money between your different accounts, or you may be depositing your check. I don't know in Pakistan, but here we can deposit our check online, just taking the picture of the check, and it's going to upload. We don't go to bank to just deposit the checks. And also, if you are for example, transferring from one account to another account, so you are actually get method, and in another account you're going to do the post method, or it's also called put method. So these kind of transactions you will be doing when you are managing your bank account. So for these kind of transaction, you use HTTP method, like you use HTTPS or HTTP port 80. Most of the time you use those kind of methods when you're doing any transactions online. So it's same thing with the game. When you are running the game, these two kind of methods you are getting, you are putting, you're getting, you're putting. This is the transaction communication happening between your interface and the backend server. So think like API is a front door. So you can create API that can act as a front door for application to access data businesses logic or functionality from your backend services. So in this scenario, I give you example of the bank account managing online, such as application running on EC2, code running on Lambda or any web application. So this is going to be interface for any services you are running at the backend. So this picture is not good. It's not clear. So this is exactly I already explained. This is the picture is showing the what kind of transaction and method you use. You post, get, and put, or you can delete something. So everything is happening through this interface, and this interface has a REST API architecture. So again, this is the transaction happening between your side and the backend side. The server are going to respond to your request, and maybe you are running the Java application, or maybe you're running HTML application. So process is the same. It's going to do these kind of methods through the API gateway. So here's another example to give you more clarity how it works. So you are sending the request, and your request goes into when it's get into the AWS environment, it hit API gateway first. तो API gateway में जब ये जाएगा वहाँ से फिर then if you are trying to access any resource behind the API gateway, then it's going to pass on this information to that services. This is how things works. So every time you connect to any services, now you can imagine your request is going to the API gateway first, and then you're going to start playing with the PUBG or any other games. So this your services, we already learned what is endpoints are. Endpoints is your services which you trying to access. So in case you have S3 services, you have a Lambda services, you can have a DynamoDB or RDS services. Those are services called endpoints, and you're trying to reach those endpoints. So you are going to use your API, and the API is going to take you to the services. So these are the things for your reading. So what are the benefit and how can you how they connect? So if you read through this, it's going to help you for the exam. So how do I configure my API gateway? So mostly the method is used is HTTP method. So it's not actually on a part of the solution architect to understand how to configure. You are not going to configure it. It is the system administrator going to, but they use HTTP method to use this. If this is a question in exam, which method they use to configure the API, the answer is HTTP method. So API gateway also has a domain name by default. So every service is running in the AWS has a DNS name beside the IP address, but it is more safe. AWS does not expose the IP address; it exposes the DNS name. So you can your API the interface can get into the API gateway using the domain name services. For example, you are making a payment online. So there is also security available which called SSL. This is wrong. It should be AWS. SSL certificate is already implemented on your application. So you're going to use the domain name services of the API gateway to connect to make the payment online, and that payment will be secure with the SSL. So they're saying API gateway also support a secure socket layer, SSL, for any payment or financial transaction. Yes, another thing is about this caching. So I think by now everyone know what the caching is. So you can also use the caching. Like if you are connected through the API gateway to a certain service, and then you try again to reach the services. So API gateway going to give you response without getting back to the services itself, without getting to the region of the services. It's already had resolved the issue. It already resolved the name. So it's going to, because it's still in the cache, it's going to respond you back from there. So the trip to the origin source is not every time you log in. Until this information is available in cache server, you will get the response from the cache server. Yeah, this is another thing called same origin policy. So for example, you have a website, and the website has multiple pages. So one page is coming from like a London East server, and if you click on the second page, that may be being fetched by another region. So what is saying, this same region policy is an important concept in the web application security model. Under the policy, as web browser permits script contained in the first web. Every time you log in, you go to any web page, they have a script written into this. तो दैट स्क्रिप्ट क्या करता है कि वो स्क्रिप्ट बताता है दूसरे पेज को कि दिस इज़ ओके इफ़ यू अलाउ टू एक्सपोज योर इंफॉर्मेशन टू दिस यूज़र और दिस रिक्वेस्ट. So if it's coming from the different region, so what happen, लोग क्या करते हैं, they trying to make an attack on the website. They trying to load it with a lot of requests. So that request can actually crash the server. So in order to do this, they have implemented the cross-site scripting attack. So cross-site scripting, if somebody is coming from one side and trying to hit the traffic to another location and keep sending the request over and over. That's why you might have seen a lot of time when you go to the website, they say, click here if you are not a robot, you are a human. So these kind of information they ask you for this purposes, whether you are a human or you are a robot. If somebody going to write a code, like a hacker can write a code, and that code is going to keep sending the request on the same region, and the server can get crash. So this is what is, you should read this as well. So this is the last topic of this lecture. Web Identity Federation and Incognito. Everyone has experienced this. When you try to log in, you sign up, they say you want to sign up with Google, Facebook or LinkedIn username and password. So when you register with the social site, the service which run behind the scene is called Cognito. So the Web Identity Federation lets you give your user access to AWS resources after they are successfully authenticated with the web-based identity provider like Amazon, Facebook, or Google. So what is this? This is a Web Identity Federation. Following the successful authentication, the user receive an authentication code. Everyone has experienced that. Again, this is wrong spelling as AWS. The user receive an authentication code from the web ID provider, which they then trade for temporary AWS security credential. Let's see in action. So here's the user trying to log in using their Facebook account, and he wanted to access the Lambda function or DynamoDB or maybe EC2 instance. So the way it works, he's going to use his Facebook account, and the Facebook account is going to respond back with the token, and it's going to take that token and pass on to the Cognito service. So he used the Facebook provided the token, and the token going to pass on to Cognito on the AWS environment, and from there Incognito is going to give you a key. This is authentication key, which is actually allowing you to have access on the basis of your token to the services on the Amazon. So now once you have this authentication given by Cognito to you, now you are able to log in to any services. So remember this flow. You almost everyone has been using these services on daily basis, but in behind the scene, the service which is doing all this is called Cognito. So this you have to remember. So there's a concept called user pools, and user pools nothing but the directories. Your social media provider has a directory which contains your username and the password. So that directory is called pool. So when you try to sign up to the pool, similarly the user pool can also be available on the AWS. But if you are asked to log in using any of these social media services, so you are actually going to connect to the user pool. User pool will verify your username and the password, and then it give it to you to the Cognito. And the Cognito is going to act as the broker between the identity provider, it's a social media website, and the AWS. So it's going to play as a broker's role. So once he's get verification from the social media, it's going to pass on that information to the AWS. Then the successful authentication going to generate a JSON web token. That's called JWT. JSON web token means it's written in a JSON, and it's also called a token. So Cognito going to give you a token, and then once you have this token, the pool enable you to temporarily go and try go to access AWS services like S3 and DynamoDB. Let's see this in action. So first thing, you are trying to reach this EC2 instance, and you are using the Facebook login credential, and then in the if Facebook has a service running user pool. User pool has all the information about the users, right? So what happened when you send the request to user pool go to the through the pool is go to Facebook and verify your username and the password, and the Facebook give you a JWT token back, response with the JWT token. And once you get the JWT token, now you're going to go to an identity pool. Identity pool is this: you already have your information with the AWS as well. So your JWT token going to access the identity pool, where your identity will be verified, and you will be given the AWS credential, temporary credential to access your resources. So this is the flow. Any question?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So that's all. This is for your reading. The rest of the things. Okay, yes, this another thing is going to use the push mechanism every time you get. I don't know if you ever have experience if you're trying to log into your system, for example, Gmail from your phone, and then you go and try to log in from your laptop. So they will send you a code. Have you seen that? Anyone? If you're trying to log to different device, like I'm talking about the different devices using the same credential.
Yes, sir. Verification के लिए जो होती है.
जी तो वो क्या करते हैं कि when for example I was log in to my Gmail using my mobile phone, and then I get home, I try to log in from my laptop. So it's going to ask me, going to send me a token. is saying, going to ask me, is this you trying to log in from this location? पता नहीं यहाँ पे तो location भी आ जाती है कि somebody was trying to log into your system from such and such city and trying to access your account. So do you allow? Then I have to say yes or no. So these kind of services called the Cognito Track Association. That's what they call Cognito Track Association. So what this happen, if you try to log in from one machine, one device, it's going to push this information through the using the SNS services to all the devices you're trying to reach from. So they're going to synchronize all the information about the user, his username and the password, to all the machines you have used in the past or you trying to use now. So that's why they ask you a question. Sometimes they say, do you allow this? This is you who are trying to reach this email? So this kind of information. So for that scenario, they use the SNS silent push notification. So the moment you try to log in from a different devices, they always ask you this question. This is implemented in Canada. Even I've tried to log into my bank account, and in my bank account, they always ask me if I'm using a different device. They say, is this you trying to log into your bank account? I say yes. Then it's going to allow me. So again, what is running behind the scene is called Cognito service. So that's it for today. Elastic, I will cover this tomorrow. Elastic Transcender is just like 2 slides. So thank you very much, guys, for today. It was like a lengthy class, little bit.
So is next weekend our last class then? Last 2 classes?
Yes. Yeah, next week is we have our last 2 classes. That's true. Are you excited?
I think I'm going to miss the classes.
So yeah, hopefully I'll finish. Actually, I wanted to teach you Kinesis stream service today. I don't know. Believe me, I spent 3 days on those slides because I cannot work continuously because I feel tired. So I spent 3 days, and for somehow I lost all the presentation. Now I have to do all this again. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Thank you. Take care.